Good morning, good evening, good afternoon.
I am here. I am here. I am here.
Buenos dias.
Oh, okay, we're going Espanol today.
How you
I'm
doing?
good. How are you?
Excellent.
I want to make sure that
hmm
my part, as far as like the camera view, is good because I want everybody to see the top of my head because I feel like every time the live is over, like the
hmm
top of my head ain't showing. So I don't know. I lowered myself a little bit. Hopefully,
So right now it looks like it's a little bit above your eyebrows.
right now, though, that's the thing. Right now, it does, but
hmm
then when it's over, I'm probably gonna look normal.
Okay.
That's what I'm assuming. So I don't know. I mean, is this a little bit better?
I think so.
Right, but like when we go off, a lot my head this part's
hmm
covered, so I'm gonna lower myself just a little bit more like this.
He said,
You
he
saw what
said,
I did? You saw me inch my way down, like I'm just lowering myself like this.
yeah.
So
Can you be a little bit further from the camera? No?
yeah, I can. I'm backing it up. Maybe backing it up. I backed up some. I mean, not backing it up. Not backing it up. I mean, like back away from the camera.
Yeah.
I
He's
I
so
see
funny.
Elder Kenny's on. Hello. Um.
Hey, Elder Kenny.
Well, yeah. Maybe if I back it up or back myself up. Let me stop saying back it up. Back myself up. Then I'm not trying to. I'm not
It's
trying to
funny.
back it up on
I
live
think
with
I think
y'all.
it is a. Mhm. Do we look like and because I'm on it on my computer and I think we look it looks good.
Yeah. I mean, yes.
Now it's clear. Now we all clear
Yeah.
too. So our signal's looking right.
So so your computer produces better camera than your phone.
Well, no, I'm using my phone. But I just go on my computer so I can make sure that everything looks right, you know,
Oh.
like the camera. So I mean, because it kind of still does have you just right here. On your screen, what does it look like? Does it
I
have your
got
whole head?
headspace. So like from here to here is all wall.
Oh yeah, because on camera right now, it's showing you right
So what if
here.
I do this? So
But
what about this though?
let me see. You didn't move yet because you know it's like a little lag. Uh, dang, it didn't catch up
It
yet.
didn't catch up yet?
When you went like that, when you just said headspace, that's where it's at on the live. So that's closer. That's that. No, you need to be further back.
So I need to back it up some.
hmm Yeah, don't
I'm
back it
not
up.
backing it up, okay? I need to not say that again. So
My cousin Clarice is on here. Hey Clarice.
is it, I mean, is this
Yeah, I think if you, I think that's fine.
okay.
And maybe like next time, like have like I can't touch the camera right now. That's how far I am
Yeah,
back. Can you
nope.
touch it?
Mm-mm.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, we good. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Viblitical Show. This is episode 8. So the topic that will be discussed is doctors on Zoom, and we're going to be talking about forgiveness in detail. So,
hmm
um, as most of you all know, I will start first. And before I get started, just so you all know, please comment below with your comments. I will be reading them and
hmm
further discussing what you're bringing to the table as well. So Yeah, so I guess we'll just go
Mm-hmm.
ahead and get started. So my topic is doctors using Zoom. So the reason why I wanted to talk about this topic is because if for those of you that have been coming back or that have been watching other shows, I spoke about restaurants and colleges adjusting to this new normal. And with that, with the restaurants about the new seating arrangements, I just went to a birthday dinner for Maria, and it was at a very fancy restaurant. And I will say that the seating arrangements were like interesting because every other table was empty. There was no longer
Mm.
everybody at a table. It was every other table. The staff was required to wear a mask. Of course, in a restaurant, we ain't wearing no mask because how we gonna eat with a mask on?
Mm-hmm.
So, so
Right.
that was that. And then, uh,
Did you wear it before? Did you wear it while in the restaurant, like before your food?
no, I mean, I went in the restaurant. I was
Oh,
like, I'm in the restaurant, so if my mask is off while I'm in the restaurant, why have my mask when I walk in? So
yeah.
I didn't have, I
Cause
didn't
we,
wear my mask.
'Cause I just asked because we went for Thai food yesterday and we wore it while we weren't eating.
Oh, well,
Hmm.
I'll say this, I didn't, but the Lord is on my side and I don't have COVID. So, but no, I did not
Hallelujah.
wear my mask at all in the restaurant because I'm like, I'm
Hmm.
eating and I'm conversing. It was a dinner, so it was six other people there. So it was a total of seven of us at the party.
Hmm.
So I'm like, I can't be talking to you with no mask on, then take it off to eat, then put it back on to not eat, and this is too much. But anyway,
Hmm.
so in the episodes before, I talked about the restaurants, and then I also talked about colleges adjusting to new students with dealing with online learning versus campus learning. So I wanted to talk about doctors
Hmm.
in particular because I did some research on some doctors that are in New York, which, of course, in the
Right.
beginning was number one in COVID-19 cases, and also with Michigan. Michigan has been number four used to be number four in the US with COVID cases. So this research stems from doctors that I've seen interview on their experiences with patients during COVID-19 and the topic of using telehealth. So I'm going to be speaking on telehealth.
Hmm.
So there's a doctor by the name of Dr. Rebecca Kurth. She is at Columbia University in New York. Um, and so I'm going to read a couple of things that she talked about. She noticed that her calls for COVID-19 spiked in mid-March. She also stated that there was so much uncertainty during this whole COVID-19 because it's new for everybody. The doctors knew about COVID-19, but as far as like it coming to the United States, it has been very new. I see Mr. Williams is on. Hello, Mr. Williams. Um, but yeah, she
Hmm.
stated that the concern that she had was that her attention was going to be on COVID-19 so much that it was going to neglect some of the other healthcare needs that were needed. So
Okay.
like she was worried about the folks that were having a heart
Hmm.
attack, folks that were having strokes,
Yeah.
folks that were
Hmm.
that needed cancer check-ins, all those folks. So I'm kind of going into the mind of the doctor, and they're like, okay, COVID-19 is important, but we also have other things, and then even normal stuff like pneumonia, ear sinus infections, ear infections. Um, I even
Hmm.
had so speaking a little bit about me, I had excess wax buildup in my ear. I see my friend Julian is on. Hello,
Hmm.
Julian. I had earwax buildup. So one of the things that she spoke about in here was that those kinds of things need an actual doctor to be in person with you. So because you do need that I don't know what it's called, but whatever that little, I think it's a stethoscope. I don't know, to go inside your ear to check the wall of your ear to make sure there's not wax buildup or that you don't have an ear infection. So there are certain things where people have to physically go
Hmm.
in and see a doctor for. But there is a silver lining with telehealth because there are certain things that are going to be beneficial to zooming in, a
Right.
patient going in on Zoom to talk to their doctor. So,
Hmm.
So basically, she stated that she had to do micro inventions to prevent things from getting worse. So like what I said about pneumonia, sinus infection, the regular things that people typically get sick about, she had to figure out a way to virtually do all this so it would prevent her from even getting COVID-19. So so thankfully she had only 50 patients that tested positive for COVID-19. And now, mind you, there were like literally 100 deaths a day in New York City due to coronavirus. New York was the epicenter, as you all know, with coronavirus. But the thing is that she had 50 of those 100 folks that were dying a day. So in her mind, she's like, okay, as long as I can save as many people as I can, let me do that. But in her mind, she's also thinking about those other illnesses as well. So although in mid-April, she saw the cases decline on COVID-19, there was a rise in those other ones that I just mentioned: sinus infections, pneumonia, bronchitis, all the little illnesses that typically happen on a yearly basis. And that in her mind, she was wondering, do I open up my office to those people, or do I take care of them virtually? So telehealth has really been a way for doctors to find new ways, once again, new normal, on how to take care of their patients. So some of the things that she stated that were very, very beneficial to telehealth, which is on Zoom, was back pain. Back pain has been very good. You can you can see them on camera. You can do that. You can they can phone in the prescriptions. There's no labs or x-rays really that are needed for back pain. So all her patients that had back pain, she was able to virtually do that stuff.
That's good.
Yeah, so but like I said before, things that require an in-person checkup are the earwax buildup. I had to physically go in on Friday and they had to flush my ear, y'all. Like I had fluid in my ear and I had excess wax in my ear. So I had to go in physically. They flushed out my ear. I can hear again. Like there's no more muffled sounds. I can hear. Abdominal pain, you're gonna need blood work for that. Blood work and other x-rays. Fatigue, chest pain, acute stroke systems. Those are all things that once again require you to physically go in. So what she believes, this is what her belief is with telehealth. I see my friend Adam is on. Hey, Adam. She believes that with telehealth, it's prevalent. It's going to be prevalent post COVID-19. So she expects a 20 to 30% rise of patients that will change from going in to telehealth. So there's going to be a revolution. It's going to be revolutionized. Telehealth is going to come to a new height because people are realizing that you can actually have an appointment with your doctor on Zoom and get seen and all that stuff. But unfortunately, during COVID-19, y'all noticed that screenings for cancer couldn't happen because you couldn't physically go in. Childhood vaccinations weren't happening. All those different things that are necessary within like the medical institutions, those weren't happening during the whole big like climb of COVID-19. So I want to talk about Dr. Chad Elamundel. I hope I'm saying his last name correct. He is in the University of Michigan, and he is a professor of urology. And he gave some statistics. So pre-COVID-19, y'all, there were only 400 telehealth sessions per month. About 400. During COVID-19, it went up to 30,000 visits. So how you go from 400 to 30,000?
Right.
So back to what I was saying earlier with Dr. Kurth, she was saying that she saw a spike in telehealth sessions because of the fact that the offices being closed and you're not able to physically go in. So there was the silver lining for the patient because they were immediately able to be seen, and then also handling a lot of those preventative measures, having preventative measures in place virtually. Because think about the time it would
Right.
have taken for someone to physically go in to see the doctor, who's sitting and waiting for their appointment. All that. Well, whether you can schedule one, telehealth where you're seen right away. I see Valdivia is on. Hey, so now I'm going to speak about Michigan. So in Michigan, prior to the pandemic, 10,000 telehealth patients. During COVID-19, 140,000 to 230,000.
Mm.
So for to see the spike in that was astonishing. So I'm also going to talk about what they're trying to implement now is e-visits. I don't know if y'all know what e-visit is. An e-visit is an example of an e-visit is patient portal messages, which is like their website, email, a picture. An example of a picture would be like dermatologists. Dermatologists can just like benefit from this because basically, let's say I needed to see
Right.
a dermatologist because my skin was not too great. I could take a picture of my actual rash that I have and submit a picture to
Mm-hmm.
that doctor, and then they can prescribe me literally over the phone. So like
Yeah.
so technology has really just advanced over time. I see Charlie Baptiste says, "Hey Andre, what's up?" Hey Charlie, I'm good. Just talk about doctors using Zoom. Um, so also he talked about e-consults. Do y'all know about e-consults? E-consults are where your primary care doctor has a question about you, right? And then they get with a
Mm-hmm.
specialist that specializes in that particular field. So instead of bringing me in to see the doctor, the e-consult is the doctor talking to the specialist and then hashing out everything. Just so
Mm-hmm.
used to be where you would have to go in, talk to the doctor, then the doctor would talk to the specialist in person. Now an e-consult is the doctor could be at home, the specialist could be at home, and they can communicate telephonically or virtually about what to do in your illness or in your situation. So
Mm-hmm.
what I've also researched is that telehealth has been used more in these specific areas. And chime in, y'all, if y'all know. Psychiatry has been, if you think about psychologist, psychiatry, do I have to
Mm-hmm.
physically go in? I can actually Zoom you and see a psychiatrist. Dermatology, as I stated before, if I have a rash or I have an outbreak, I can take pictures of what's going on with me and send it to my dermatologist. Neurology. So when it's dealing with different things with neurology, that can all be pictures, that can all be conversations that can happen virtually. So, in case y'all didn't know, federal law, this is temporary, federal law has made authorizations when it comes to patients. Um, just so y'all know, there are doctors that are going across state lines to handle. So, like for example, with you, Brandon, let's say your doctor in your actual state, let's say you're a civilian. So you have a doctor in your state that's not available. Federal law has authorized you
Mm-hmm.
to go see a doctor in Oregon or you to go see a doctor in another state
Right.
to get taken care of because now a lot of doctors are teleworking. A lot of doctors are not actually physically at work. But I will go back to Dr. Kurt though. So the doctor, she mentioned that whenever she does go on Zoom with these patients, she still wants to give that doctor atmosphere. So she still physically goes into work. She physically goes into the office because it's the image. It's about the image of what the patient wants to see. The image, they don't patients don't want to see the inside of a doctor's home. They want to feel like they're still being
Mm-hmm.
seen by a doctor. So she'll still put on her doctor's uniform. She'll still do those things to make it feel like that. And then she's also, the silver lining in it is with her patients, she's able to like have like a personal relationship with them. An example, she said, well, she's met pets, like some of the patients' pets. She's greeted the pets. She's seen children run across the screen. Like it's all like it's really cute. Like it's like wow, like I've known my patient for 5 or 10 years, and I've only known them by them coming into the office, coming into the institution. But
Right.
now it's like, wow, now I'm able to have a deeper relationship with my client, with my patients, because now I'm able to see uh, their children or able to see any like mishaps that happen or, them yelling at their husband or wife or, hey, I'm on an appointment or just things like that. Just in her mind, she's like, that's kind of interesting because you don't know that side of that patient. Um, so
Yeah.
to continue further, I want to talk about an economist, economist, David Cutler.
I
Go
got,
ahead. You got a question?
I got, but I hope too that I think because I was trying to think of like, what are the positives about this, and the biggest one I could think of is I hope that people understand and start to be advocates for their own health care. You know what I'm saying? Like you have to, you know your body. You've lived with your body for however many years. And so being an advocate for your own healthcare, I think is very important. And I think it just goes to show, like for example, doctors practice medicine, right? Like here, take this 2 weeks, come back, and let me know if things are better. They practice medicine, so you should be involved in that process of advocating for your own health. And I think this is something good because it puts the person at the center of it again. The way things were before the pandemic, it was, you go to a doctor, the doctor tells you everything, and you were only involved as much as you wanted to be, which I guess technically is still the same. But the difference is now, like, you know, that you're not seeing that doctor. It's not that physical interaction. So it's kind of like you got to know what you're talking about. You got to be able to explain your symptoms. Like you probably be on Google and figuring out, okay, what is attached to what. So this symptom, and these symptoms all go in line with this disease or this problem. You get what I'm
Yeah,
saying? So I think that's the problem is that people be more intertwined in their own healthcare process. What you
yeah,
think?
and I think the Dr. Kurtz, she was just kind of, it made her feel warm inside because she's like, now I'm a person too. So it made her feel like she was more connected to her patients being on Zoom, seeing their life outside of a hospital room or inside of a medical office. She was able to see, and I think that, and for her, it's like, wow, now I see this person for more than just, oh, that's a patient. Now I can establish possibly a friendship with that patient. Maybe I can be a person that's there for them if they need anything else outside of me being their doctor. So there's just a lot of different things. Like there's some silver linings in the whole like medical system. So Adam asked, do you think this
Mhm.
could make healthcare more affordable for more people? So I'm gonna get to that, Adam. So you just talked about something that I'm gonna get to because the economist David Butler kind of gave some information on it. So I am gonna answer that question. Um, so, yeah, but back to what I was saying. Yes, I feel that with these doctors having the virtual communication with their with their patients, really will like it will actually psychologically make things better too. Like, I mean, there's a lot. It's more than just even the whole affordable thing and all that. Yes, that's great. Yeah, based on the information I have, which I'm going to share, yes, it looks like there could be a slight decline in medical costs due to an increase in virtual things being seen. But I'm also going to give you the doctor's side too, because on the doctor's side, there's a significant decrease in revenue for the doctors too. So not saying that their pay necessarily decreases, but like the amount of money, because doctors get more money when you physically go in to the clinic versus me on Zoom, me on Zoom getting seen. So there's less money
Yeah,
involved.
because you pay for that visit.
Baba head, but you
Yeah,
paying for the visit. So yes,
yeah.
there is. So for the patient, it's better. So for the patient, they're paying less, but for the doctors that earn their living, it does kind of offset that.
Mhm.
Now, mind you, I ain't saying because doctors make good money. They're doctors, so I'm not saying doctors out here struggling. They'll be struggling with telehealth. I'm not saying that, but there is a significant pay cut that doctors could get because the in-person sessions are gonna decline post COVID-19. I'm predicting, and so is this economist, predicting that there's going to be a significant decline
Mhm.
in person visits because telehealth has really like elevated since COVID-19. So one of the things that the David Butler, he's the economist, he said, and by the way, This economist is from Harvard University, and he used to work in the White House with former President Clinton. So just to give you a little bit of background of who he is. So he's from Harvard. So this information seems, well, I will say it's legit. He is excited about the surge in telehealth since COVID-19. And he stated, I don't know if you all know about the content management system, it's CMS. What they have is that they've experienced some home health fraud from telehealth. And I don't know if y'all don't know what that is. Basically, it means that the patient is saying that they did go on Zoom or they did go on virtually with their doctor, but there was no health care conducted. So like they're paying for something, so they're lying, saying that they weren't, like their health issues weren't fixed. So a lot of people are fraudulently saying that the doctor never took care of them, even though they did, but they're lying and saying, well, I didn't get taken care of the right way. So that's called home health fraud, because you're basically saying that the doctor didn't see you. So there's been a spike in fraud cases where the patient is saying they weren't taken care of the right way, but when they investigated it, they actually were. So, and it's because the doctors were smart enough to record the session and to say, oh no, baby, I did take care of that patient, and that patient is lying, and then they get in trouble for that. So that's like the negative parts of the whole in telehealth, because it's like, well, that's my word against yours if you were seen. And like, no, them doctors are saying, no, boo, you ain't finna get me. I did take care of you. I have proof that I did. I gave you the medication. I gave you this. That's not my problem that you didn't go to the pharmacy to get your prescription. That ain't my fault that you just wanted to ignore my I did give you the answers. So it's just interesting, like the stuff that I'm reading, because I'm like, dang, like people are like literally like being fraudulent about being taken care of. I'm like, golly, like really? Like, what do you think about that? And let me know what y'all think about that, because I think that is crazy. But he also said that 25%, this is what he's speaking going into like the year 2025, y'all. So like in the next 5 years, he's seeing that post-COVID-19, that areas of care with telehealth will be beneficial. And this goes back to what I stated earlier about, the things that you can be seeing, the dermatology stuff, there's certain medical aspects that will be beneficial. But kind of going into the question that Adam had about being affordable, this economist said that there are three main drivers of high cost of running a healthcare system. So it's administrative costs of running the healthcare system. There is pharmaceutical companies. That's going into the political aspects, but pharmaceutical companies that gets paid, because they get paid more in the U.S. than any other country. The U.S. is the highest with pharmaceutical needs. And then typical visits to the medical care institution. So those are the three main drivers that cause for around $3 trillion in healthcare. Like, it's so much money dealing with healthcare. And with those three things being the three main drivers, if we reduce one of them, which I don't see pharmaceutical companies' prices going down, honestly. I mean, unfortunately. And administrative costs, maybe so, because with administrative costs, think about the record keepers. Think about the folks that do medical records. Like, all those jobs will kind of go away if everything is done electronically. All those healthcare jobs that require the in-person checks or the in-person, those jobs will kind of be reduced significantly. So that's where the administrative cost part comes in. Then you're talking about the typical visit. So if I'm going in for a because I got pneumonia, or if I got a illness that can be done virtually, I'm going, personally, if it's more affordable for me, I'm going to do Zoom. Honey, I ain't going to go in, because if I know that it costs less to go in to do a virtual, and I know it's not a health risk to me, then yes, I'm going to do it virtually. So, Adam, to answer your question, to reduce the medical care visits, the physical visits, I think can help with the patients having a more affordable way of paying for the medical care. So he stated that,
I have a
yeah,
question there. Do you think that people, when it comes to telehealth, do you think that people will be um, more thoughtful in their doctor visits? For example, like not just going to the doctor, kind of thing, but like, let it be something that's worth going to see the doctor over. Do you think that plays a role in it as well?
yeah. So I'm glad you asked that because it kind of goes into what I was gonna say next. So he stated, "Come on, you better." So he says, so he made a statement saying that the silver lining in this is that post COVID-19, so post COVID-19, it'll be easier for the patient when it comes to accessibility to the doctor, which is the Zoom. And then the
Mm-hmm.
doctors, the benefit for the doctors is that they will have more feasible work hours. So think about a doctor that is their hours are like crazy. So their hours will be reduced too because Zoom, that can be, I mean, the session may be a lot. Is first of all, it's quicker, and it doesn't
Mm-hmm.
cause the doctor to physically have to go in. So, like the time, the scheduling of a patient, and it benefits both ends, the doctor and the patient. So that's
Right.
where this whole Zoom. That's why I feel like the doctors using Zoom and all that is a new revolution. I feel like this is going to be a new thing. So, another thing that he spoke about was healthcare monitoring, where telehealth can benefit patients and doctors to keep them out of the institutions. Kind of back to what I said, taking those things out, taking a lot of those cases that don't require you to see a doctor physically, you can take care of it telehealth. You can literally do that, and it saves money. So, which goes back to it being
Mm-hmm.
affordable. Um, so, an example would be like, so with preventative medicine in particular, or with preventative care, it would I feel that this is what he said too, and I agree. Prevention of heart attacks, it would prevent strokes. Individuals with hypertension can benefit from telehealth, um, and the cost. Back to what Adam said, is it going to be affordable? Yes, it will be a little bit more affordable. Um, um, and no one thinks about the remote monitoring with diabetes. Do I physically have to go in for
Mm.
diabetes? No, I don't necessarily have to do that. He also spoke about smart watches and smartphones because with technology, all your stats is on your heart rate and all the different little things. So I feel like now over the next 5 or 10 years, there could be a whole improvement to where we walking around with like stuff to kind of like check our bodies, and then our vitals and all that will just get sent over, and we choose when to send our stuff over to the doctor, and then they can have their system to where they can see, oh, well, Andre's heart rate is 68 beats per minute, da, 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 and all of the information, my vitals, all of that is checked, and then that could be done with telehealth. So I'm gonna close it with this. Um, as a statement that I want to read to you. And this came from me. I feel that it is important to understand that not all illnesses are beneficial for telehealth. So as we know, if someone, of course, got shot, or those cases where it's like, okay, they need immediate attention. Of course, I cannot virtually send my gunshot wound over to you. That's not gonna work. If I got shot, or if something, or if I'm literally like dealing with abdominal pain or heart pain or anything, any ligaments, of course, that's not going to be done during telehealth. But all the ones that are going to be beneficial to telehealth, once again, will decrease the cost and make it more affordable. And I feel that there's a balance between illnesses that are mandatory for check-ins and then the virtual checks that will impact both the patient, because it impacts the patient costly and health wise, and it benefits the doctor because the doctor will have better work hours. Yes, they will receive a little bit of a decrease in pay because they're not physically in. Yes, but there's a balance there because both the patient and the doctor will be impacted in a positive way, and that's how you revolutionize. That's how you revolutionize. I can't say revolutionize telehealth. So that's it. That's all I had.
Yeah, I like it. That's great. Thank you. And I think too that my hope and prayer is that um, that the process continues and that we can. I mean, Medicare for All is already a bill.
Mm.
So just go look at Medicare for All is already a bill, and like there really needs to be some type of consensus or something done about healthcare due to the cost. Like we have some of the highest costs here in America, and more people in America go bankrupt for health reasons and medical care costs. And that just, I mean, I think that just shouldn't be. So come on, Congress, come on, bosses, like come up with something to really help our citizens be healthy and to be in the workforce because clearly we need people to be workers. Um, I like to go out to eat. You like to go out to
Okay.
eat. We need it healthy, and people love to do those jobs. And so I think, I hope that I think this is really good, and I hope they continue to move forward with that process. And so I wanted to talk about the power of deliverance today because as I was praying and meditating this week, um, and I was wrapping up my world religions class, and I found the common theme with all religions. I myself feel most comfortable calling myself Hebrew. Um, but what I noticed with all the religions from Christianity, Zoroastrianism, Islam, Buddhism, Hinduism, all these religions, there was one common theme: to be kind to your neighbor.
Think about it,
You know
and
what I'm
think
saying?
about it, Brandon. Not to interject, but I want to also talk about, which I'm going to do more of. But yeah, the whole fact of what we learned at Equal Opportunity School at Diomi, all those religions on
Yeah.
that panel, and I'm thinking like, y'all got different little beliefs and stuff, but it's the same thing. Like, I think like it's the same thing. So it's beautiful to me that even though there's so many different religious practices, that the commonality of all of those religions is be kind to one another. Like Ellen DeGeneres says, be kind
Yeah.
to one another. Goodbye. Like that last statement is just so powerful because like all you gotta do is be kind to people. Like what happened to that? Like
Right. And I think, when I look at the practice of it, like how do we maintain that? And how do we be kind to people? And I wanted to talk about forgiveness because I think that's an essential part. And so then, Andre, I would ask you, like, who do you think forgiveness is for? If somebody asked you, like, I'm really like, let's say I came to you, I'm really having a hard time forgiving someone, like, what would you tell me? And who would you tell me that forgiveness is for?
so I will
I'm putting you on the spot.
you don't be putting me on the spot. No, I'm just playing. So in the past, so when I was younger, I used to think that forgiving someone was to benefit the other person, or it was for them because they are the one that's apologizing to me. Well, I'm just giving an example of somebody's apologizing to me. So if somebody's apologizing to me, I used to think that it used to mean if I forgive them, it's going to help them feel better because I forgave them. But it's not, to me, it's not that anymore. It's now, no, it's
Yeah.
for me. It's for me. It's for me because I will have peace in my heart by forgiving you. If I hold that grudge and because that's what holding grudges is, right? If I don't forgive you, I'm holding a grudge and I'm holding that against you. So what I've learned is over the years that yeah, me forgiving somebody is for my benefit, and to tie that into the other side of that I want to say is I can love you from a distance. So if you do something to me that's wrong or you do me wrong, and Brandon, you already know about a recent situation that I spoke to you in private about. I'm able to forgive that person because they did apologize for what they did to me, but that don't mean I'm gonna be your friend. I'll just love you from afar. So I will love and respect you from afar. Like from you can stay over there, okay? Stay over there, and I'm over here. And then, but at the end of the day, I forgave you. I'm not holding on to the mistreatment that I got from you. I'm not holding on to that because if I hold on to that, I'm gonna have gray hairs before I'm 40, and I don't want that in my life. Like, I don't want that. I mean, I'm being funny, but I want to let go of what that person
Mhm.
did, and that's by me forgiving them. Will I forget it? No, no. But I can
Mhm.
forgive them and say, hey, that's what you did. I forgive you,
Right.
because no one is perfect, but I gotta just love you from afar. And that's what I'm gonna continue to do from here on out. Is I'm not gonna be like, I can't stand them and da 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 and rolling my neck and all that. I'm not gonna do all that. I'll just be like, I dislike you, but I'm gonna love you from afar. So that's my answer.
Yeah, I like it. I like it. And I agree too. And I ask that because I do believe at this point of spiritual maturity, and just being a man who accepts responsibility for my actions, I do think that forgiveness is about me. Because on Judgment Day, y'all know I be coming straight from the spirit. Like on Judgment Day, it's not gonna be asked, you're not gonna be asked about what somebody did to you. You're gonna be asked about what how did you respond? You know,
Boom.
and I really want to talk about this and tie it into current events, because I feel like forgiveness, we're I feel like people, black people, anybody who believes Black Lives Matter, and anybody living in the world right now, period, there's a temptation for us to break the commandments of Yahusha, which he says is to love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, and mind, and to love your neighbor as yourself.
Ooh.
And he said the
Ooh, I want to
second
say
is
something.
like
I
unto.
want to say something about that.
Go ahead.
Okay, so with that statement that you just said, that's powerful because as
Mhm.
much I'm gonna give an example. I'm just gonna use me, okay, since I'm talking to you all. So there are
Right.
people that I am friends with on social media that post things that I do not agree with. I'm over here just looking like, okay, you said that. All right then. Is it necessary for me to combat them or just love them for who they are? And that is a testy question. That is a testy question because people will automatically be like, I don't agree with what you said, and I'm going off on you, and I'm gonna tell you how I disagree. Is that necessary?
Hmm.
Or am I gonna give love? Because one thing, as most of y'all know, the ones that are my friends on Facebook, people know that I'm a positive person. I'm about uplifting and edifying, as Brandon would
Yeah.
say it. So for me, I don't post controversial things. I don't post nothing that's gonna cause somebody to argue or go back and forth. I don't do that. That's not who I am. First of all, I'm not getting into
Mhm.
a whole match with you on what you view is right and what I view is right. Because if I know that you're not going to agree with me, well, I'm not having that conversation with you. So for me, I know for me, it's very important that I present myself in a way that anybody can come and talk to me, regardless to your political views, regardless to what your religious beliefs. I want everybody to come. I see my friend Mario's on. Hey Mario, and I want people to be able to come to me comfortably, even if we drastically disagree. But if I'm engaging with you in a debate on because black and white can be misinterpreted as well. You have to be very careful what you say. And ooh, I'm about to put somebody out there. Ooh, but I'm not gonna say his name. But um, and I'm going a little bit off topic, Brandon. I'm so sorry, but we're gonna go back to you. So I had
Okay.
a friend of mine. A lot of y'all may have seen my LGBTQ post that I made in reference to me being
Mm-hmm.
free and being a out proud gay black man, right? Okay. So someone that I did not expect, who I deployed with, sent me a personal message, and basically, and the first part. Now everything else he said was beautiful. He was like, "I support you," blah blah blah. Got it. But the part he said first, which really made me like say, "Hmm." He said, "I wanted to send you this message personally because I have been banned from Facebook for speaking my mind." Think about that statement. So you were banned from Facebook from speaking your mind. Now the other message he said about loving me and supporting me being gay, that part is what he said. So it was a very sweet message. But I want to stick to the part where he said I was banned from Facebook because I was speaking my mind. So the issue with that is, in my mind, I'm thinking, what in the world did you say to someone to have Facebook ban you? So those are the kinds of things where I'm thinking about, be careful what you say on social media, or be careful about the image you want to present, the reputation you want to present. Because if it has to take Facebook banning you and you have to send me a message personally, that means you're not being very careful on what you're saying. So you have to be careful what you say. And I'll leave it at that. And then you can go back, Brandon. I'm sorry, I just had to put that out there.
See, and so okay, no, that's very good, because I think that ties into what I'm talking about, which is the idea of forgiveness and how forgiveness is for us, because it also ties into what you were talking about earlier with telehealth, because unforgiveness, the Bible talks about a root of bitterness and how we have to pluck these things up by the root, because unforgiveness in your heart leads to sickness and dis-ease. You get it? Dis-ease. Like, so forgiveness is about you letting it go, regardless if the person deserves it, regardless if, because see, the temptation right now, like I see it, it's so clear to me. I see the temptation right now is to not love your brother. So in disagreement, we can still find a common ground. Just like with other religions, I don't believe that all religions serve the same God. That's not my belief. But I still did find the common theme, which is to be kind to your neighbor. That is the common theme throughout every religion. I believe that that Christ is the only way to God. But guess what? I'm still kind to human beings. I believe that there's one race. There's not black, white, whatever. Like, that is a made up, there's nothing scientific about it. And so how this all ties in together with forgiveness is forgiveness delivers you as the person. Forgiveness is not about that person, because see, this is what the temptation is. If I forgive you, then that means I don't want justice. That's so not true. You know what I mean? Like I hear black people, or just anybody who believes Black Lives Matter, or somebody who's been wronged. Just because I forgive you doesn't mean that I'm giving up my right to justice. Because we have to remember that vengeance belongs to who?
To God. Mm-hmm.
So when it comes to forgiveness, we owe it to ourselves to forgive those who have wronged us, so that we can be free and be in right standing with God. Because God said, don't even come to me. If you have an ought with your brother, leave your offering at the altar, go make it right, then come back. So even God is like, boo boo, don't come to me with no foolishness.
Oh,
Like,
so God
if
is
you
saying
have
boo
these,
boo? That's funny. God is saying boo boo. I'm
yeah,
just
yeah, boo boo. He's like, boo, don't even come to me with no foolishness if you have odds with your brother, which further lets me know that there can be no racism. If you say that you belong to the body of Christ, you can't be a racist. You can't be a person who walks in unforgiveness, because God's saying, I don't even want to deal with you. I'm not going to deal with you. You go get that right first and come back, because that's your brother over there. And so to the idea, and the reason why I wanted to talk about this is because we need to be focused on how we're living in the last days. And First Peter chapter 4 is talking about how we're living and how we should live in the last days. And um, the most important verse that I feel like is here that brings out the point is First Peter chapter 4 verse 7, and it says, "Now the end of all things is near, so be self-controlled and sober-minded for prayer." I also want to read verse 8, but what does that say to you,
read it
Andre?
again.
Now the end of all, so it says, now the end of all things is near. So be self-controlled and sober-minded for prayer.
What I just said earlier about what I do, and I've been doing it since I've been, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
I have always been a person that has always had self-control when I talk to people. I've always had self-control on what I post on social media. I've always had self-control on my walk in life. I've always had that. So I think that if it's ingrained in you to be self-controlled and to watch how you conduct yourself, that is how you're going to be that is how you're going to impact how you operate in the last days.
Amen. And I think that it's important to know that that is a fruit of the spirit, to have self-control and to be sober-minded. Like on this channel, we talk about um, uplifting and edifying. That's being sober-minded. It's having peace in the midst of everything going on, because Christ told us all this was going to happen. So why would we panic? Why would we be afraid? I feel like it's interesting too that nothing was mentioned about economics. Nothing was mentioned right here. So it says, now the end of all things is near. But guess what it's talking about? You and how you live your life. You being self-controlled, not about politics, not about the president, not about healthcare, not about the system. It's not talking about none of those things. It's talking about how you live your life, because you and your relationship with God determines how you're going to experience this life.
Well,
And then I
honestly,
also
can
want
I
to read.
add this though? So, me and you are religious people, and me and you are, yeah, we are. But I don't want to forget about the ones that don't practice religion, because even though the word does reflect having a relationship with God, I want to add to that is that for those agnostic folks and those folks that are atheists, it's about having a relationship with yourself and having self control over your daily life. So it's not necessarily about, for them, I'm only speaking to them. It's not necessarily about the relationship with God, because that's not what you believe. But it's all about you
Yeah.
ensuring that you have the peace within yourself. Because if you have peace within yourself as an individual, anything that happens around you is gonna just be you're gonna feel uplifted, and it's gonna feel joyous, because you're ensuring that you're putting yourself in check. It's about putting yourself in check, honestly. That's what it's about.
Agree. Yeah, and I think even with this is tying into the fact that all of these religions, they talk about being kind to your neighbor. And
Anybody
verse
can be
8 says,
kind to a
above
neighbor.
all.
Anybody. I could be atheist and be kind to my neighbor. Will I be blessed? Yeah,
Hmm.
I am, because I'm being
Hmm.
kind.
Right? So when we look at verse 8, it says, above all, keep your love for one another constant, for love covers a multitude of sins. So I think, this is where our power comes from, is love. Like there's another scripture that says God is love, and if you don't know love, then you don't know God. Like it's like man has made religion and has made God complicated. Like you navigate this path of complex ideologies and ideas and philosophies, but it's really pretty simple. I just believe that I think anybody can be kind, but I do think that when you have a relationship with God, it causes you to, like, He'll put you in situations where you stretch and you get to know Him in such a way that goes beyond your God-given capacity. Even though atheists and agnostics don't necessarily agree with my statement, or they may not, but I think God puts you in situations that stretch you beyond your natural abilities to
And I
love,
totally agree with
to
that.
where,
I totally agree with that.
because think about the level. James Baldwin, I think he put it best when he said, to be black in America and to be fairly awake is to nearly be in a constant state of rage. I don't know if I got everything exactly right, but you know what I'm saying? Like to be black in America and to be fairly knowledgeable about politics, knowledgeable about things of the world, is to nearly be in a constant state of rage. I feel like that's a true statement. Solomon said, with an increase in wisdom is an increase in sorrow. So the more you know, the more sorrowful you are, because it's like, and I went through that time period. I have times where I do take breaks from the news and take breaks to uplift and edify myself and remind myself of the promises that we found in, I would argue, the most historical and most prophetic book, which is the Holy Bible. Um, and so I think it's like all these things uh, coming about and being more aware, because you realize it don't have to be this way. There are enough resources in the world so that nobody has to go hungry. The wind and the seas obey our Heavenly Father. Like, we don't control that. The seasons change at His will and timing. Certain fruit grows here, certain things grow here. The natural order is established, and we didn't That's not something that we came up with. You see what I'm saying? So it's like that brings you to sometimes that truth can bring you to a place of sorrow, but then it could be uh freeing.
I see Mario said to be a black in this country and to be relatively conscious is to be in a rage almost all the time.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
That's deep.
Mm-hmm.
That's deep. So and I think so to your point, Mario, how do we define rage? Because is it a rage that we're just tired of the
Mm.
discrimination and tired of how we are disproportionately affected by police brutality and different things like that? Like, because I, for me, when I think about the word rage, Brandon went to the bathroom. But when I think about the word rage, I feel like there can be versions of rage. So, like, rage meaning rage to seek justice, or like depending on what the rage is for. Because then there's rage that is evil and terrible and all that, but I feel like there's levels to rage. So let me know what y'all think about that. But yeah, I totally agree with that statement. Yes, to be black in this country and be relatively conscious is to be enraged. It yeah, that's a very powerful message, Mario. Yeah.
He's a very powerful person,
Shout out to
and
Mario.
to be yeah, and to be prominent, to be black and gay and open and prominent, like his voice, I feel like really gave way for maybe us to be able to do like what we're doing here and to be authentically ourselves because we can look back and see that there's people who have done it. Um,
Oh, he says
so I think,
I honestly feel like we are in a constant state of being in a idea of rage. Oh, okay. Okay.
mm,
Yes. So I think that's kind of where I was going a little bit, like more on the rage we have is geared towards trying to get somewhere. Like, because, there's people that have
mm,
rage for no reason, and they're crazy. But
yeah,
our rage is not rage
mm,
that's like, that equates to
mm,
hurting someone else. This is just rage we have to just search for equality and inclusion. Mario
yeah.
says we are just used to the traumas of being black. Ooh, Mario. Oh, Lord. I can hug you right now.
This ties, so I'm glad the conversation is going this way because this ties into exactly what I'm saying, and I think that um, because there's a lot of people out there. I feel the same way. We've been talking about these things. We've been praying about equality. We've been preaching about equality. I'm tired of talking, and so like I think the way for me is turn that into something good. Turn that into something positive to where you go out and you attempt humble yourself before the mighty hand of God, so that in due time He can exalt you. And what that does for us is it means that guess what? I will humble myself to be able to educate somebody though I'm tired of having the conversation, if somebody approaches me, I will humble myself so I can have the conversation with them. Now, it's when they come in the right way. You know how there's different
Hmm.
allies when people come in the right coming to get an understanding, not to vex you, not to
That's
make
what
you
I said
lose.
earlier. Talking to those folks that you already know ain't gonna go nowhere versus talking to ones that wants to educate themselves. And I'm all for educating some people on what's going on. And like Mario says, ours is just navigating our traumas. So yeah, that's navigating
Mm-hmm.
our traumas. So basically, our rage is not rage that's evil and all that. Our rage is more like, can we just be treated
Yeah,
the same as all these other folks in the world? Like, can we be equal? That's the reason why there is Black Lives Matter. Okay, so
right.
yeah.
So like to come back full circle and really drive this point home, I'm really thinking like, forgiveness is the way ahead for us. And it doesn't mean that we stop the pursuit of justice because justice is of the Most High. The Most High is a just and true God, where He says, I reign on the just as well as the unjust. So even those that don't believe and even those that believe, according to the faith that I believe in. And so I think, there's this idea that if we forgive the sins of the past, of slavery, that we're not going to pursue justice. I think if we're going to pursue justice, we must forgive. We can be strategically sober-minded, and we can be able to love one another. I think because that I think would heal some of the wound. Maybe some of the rage is played out in Chicago or on, I can't say I hate to use this term, but I'm just using it to help prove my point. Like maybe some of the black on black crime,
Well, I was gonna
see,
say that too.
some of that is the bitterness that's within us about the sins of the past. Because like the better statement is hurt people hurt people. Like you walking around in trauma, and I'd like to hear what Mario has to say about that. Like walking around with this trauma or this rage that we live with will cause us to even react to people who look like us in a harmful manner, or cause us to take a job, like because I said this, I was talking to a friend earlier, black cops will kill a black man just as quick as a white cop will.
Yeah. And so I'll answer, but if Mario's still on, hopefully you are. But yes, there's a lot of black people that are beating up the black people that aren't saying anything. So I want to speak on that because I'm a person that I am not going to be posting anything about anything that's going on with the protest. I'm not speaking out on that because well, first of all, I'm not that kind of person to speak on it. That does not mean that I'm not aware or that I'm ignoring it. But when I see other black people attack the blacks that aren't saying anything, that bothers me because it's like, okay, I'm with you. I'm with you. Just because I'm not saying anything about it publicly does not mean that I'm not with you. So like you said, black on black crime, which is of course the escalated level. But yeah, there are black folks that are enraged with other black people for being quiet. And I don't like, that's the part I don't like.
Yeah.
That's the part and I'm not saying I'm being attacked because ain't nobody attacked me to my face, but but there has not been any but I do see it on social media where it's like, you ain't saying nothing. I'm like, okay, well, they didn't, what if they're tired? What if they're just tired and they're just like, I'm over it.com and like,
and what if they feel like they're tired of talking because we've been talking 2014,
yeah.
2007, all these names that like why? And I guess that's why I asked the question, that real hard question, like can a system that's built on, like, this is the foundation. This is the foundation. What we're seeing is
he wants the question again. Mario wants the question again. He stepped away.
I forgot what the question was. Was it something to the effect of like how the rage is played out? Because by not living in forgiveness, by not forgiving the sins of the past, then we're doing damage to not only ourselves, but then the symptoms that we see, like maybe Chicago, or like, because people always want to bring up Chicago, right? People always want to bring up black on black crime, and maybe part of the root of bitterness is the trauma that we live in that will cause us to react to somebody who looks like us, because black cops will kill the same way that white cops will. They've been present. They was present with Freddie Gray and Eric Garner. And
so your question to Mario is, what is his thoughts on black crime, and then what is his thoughts on the fact that black people tend to attack other black folks, or like what
does it look like to live in what symptoms of that constant state of rage?
Oh, okay.
I feel like what are the symptoms? Like, how do you think that's playing out?
Well, Mario, if you can answer that would be great, because I think he'll give a good. He said our traumas run deep, and maybe that runs deep based on slavery. Oh, I just said the same thing. He just.
It's okay. So this is a great conversation. This is sort of like proving my point on which when we forgive, we pluck up roots of bitterness before they can grow. because when roots grow, they grow deep. And living with unforgiveness is incapacitating our ability to even go to God and connect to our Father. Because this is why I think the issues in church exist, because it's not a problem with race until we start to say, that actually Black people are Hebrew Israelites as well. Not even saying that only
Ooh,
that
I
all the
got a
Hebrew Israelites,
question.
not even saying that, but just admitting that Black people were Hebrew Israelites as well. Just look at Egypt. Come on now, just look at these places historically speaking, and so that becomes a problem
I
then.
got a question though, and
Okay.
anybody else can answer this as well who's watching. So, with forgiveness, is it possible that we have to forgive white people too? Even in the midst of white
Mm-hmm.
people, some white people, not all, but some white
Mm-hmm.
people showing their racism, just blatant, overt racism. Will it, because I feel that with forgiveness is it's very delicate. Forgiveness is a delicate thing, first of all. Forgiving someone,
Mm-hmm.
because that's really where our heart, the deep root of our hearts is having forgiveness.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like in order to fix it, because I like to have solutions for things, forgiving
Mm-hmm.
white people. So, and an example of forgiving white
Mm-hmm.
people in today's time, the white folks that are just out here, just they call them the Karens and all that, saying, okay, I forgive you. Like when they apologize, I'm talking about when they
Mm-hmm.
apologize. Now, there's some white people that do things and they don't apologize. So that I'm not talking about them, but the ones that do
Mm-hmm.
apologize, do we forgive them? So when we see those Karens getting put on blast, and yes, of course, it does have to take them being put on blast to apologize, but are we forgiving them? So when we see that they apologize, because I don't see that, because I follow, shout out to Love B. Scott, shout out to B. Scott, who is a blogger. I see him posting
Mm-hmm.
things about the Karens. I know I hate to say that, but that's what I'm seeing. The Karens apologizing for their actions. So they'll say something racist, and then they release a statement apologizing. But what I see in the feed, the responses on B. Scott's blog, on his thing, like, well, shoot, oh, now you want to apologize? Now you want to, and it's like, well, they did apologize. They could have just kept their mouth shut and not apologized. Then it would have made them even worse. So, like, are we forgiving
Yeah.
those folks? Those folks that are saying, I take responsibility for my actions. I should not have said that. Because they could literally be legit, like, apologizing. It may not be just because, oh, I was put on blast. It could literally be like, ooh, I really jacked up. Like, I maybe I was really racist and didn't really know it until I did this. And I'm not justifying anything for those folks. I'm just saying, are we forgiving those white folks, the ones that are apologizing for their actions?
Coming from a spiritual place, and
Mario,
then
Mario said, I personally want forgiveness with actions.
yeah, okay, I agree with Mark. I think, I think the best way, but see, because this is why I'm having the conversation, because forgive for for yourself. Because if you don't for it, and probably, what if the answer is, did it really did it affect you? Is it something you held on to? Like, is it something that brought you to the place where you even ask yourself, should I forgive this person? If it brought you to that place, spiritually speaking, I would say yes, because it affected you in that manner. If it did not affect you, like the newest police killing, the one that's a case that's being reopened, the Elijah McClain one. Did you see that?
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, that's a whole
There's a
nother
whole nother,
another level.
yeah.
But for me, guess what? I definitely need to forgive those police officers, whether or not they apologize for it or not. Let me tell you
Show me
why.
better than you can tell
Verse
me.
8.
He said, show me better than you can tell me, but you're going to say what I'm thinking, but go ahead. Go ahead.
Like, for example, verse 8. And this is, and so there is a separation. I want to say this is for people who believe in the true God, the one most high God, who is the creator of the heavens and the earth. So I am speaking from this perspective. So verse 8, above all, keep your love for one another constant, for love covers a multitude of sins. Because the idea is this. If God is true, and I believe he is, and if Christ died for the sins of the entire world, and I believe he did, isn't my whole goal to make sure that other people can connect to him just like I did? Because guess what? I didn't understand everything that I understand now that I'm 38 years old. You know what I'm saying? Been in the army 20 years. The way that I thought 10 years ago is not the same way that I thought now. I tried to change my sexuality for 11 years, tried to pray the gay away. Like what I understood then is not what I understand now. And so isn't the main goal, if my goal is to connect people to Christ and to receive the salvation so we can all go to heaven, then it is my job to produce love and forgiveness the same way he did. Christ didn't say, "Oh, I'm dying just for the Hebrews."
Right.
No, like he died for the remission of sin so that we could be restored in our connection
I'll
with
be right
God.
back, Brandon. I'll be right back.
Okay, so hey, what's up, Jim? Um, so what I'm saying, uh, Mario, like when it comes to forgiveness, and we need to put the lens back on us and to check in to see how we're living. Are we being a linear person, or are we holding people to different standards than we hold ourselves? So I just want to highlight if we're going to live a life with, and we're going to manage this rage, and this rage is not going to produce things from the seed of bitterness, then we have to walk in forgiveness. And this might sound like I'm talking about uh, Christianity, but I'm really not. I'm talking about the Hebrew way. I'm talking about the way. Um, and because forgiveness and justice, um, because you forgive somebody doesn't mean that you don't want justice. Actually, I think you make the way for God to bring his vengeance and his justice when you forgive.
Yes.
You free yourself and the worry about something parallel because obviously, like, I don't know, the way that I feel about humanity, I believe there's one race. That's how I personally, that's not our reality that we live in, but I believe that there's one race. And I'm not going to live my life parallel. If God is the only one who could change people's hearts, and I believe that's true, then why would I live my life focused on somebody parallel? Because I can't do nothing about the nastiness of your black heart, but God can. And so let me love you regardless of the way that you're treating me and forgive you. And not that doesn't mean I'm making myself subject to abuse. I'm not saying that. I'm saying let me love you by freeing me to be who I am and not give you the power and control over me because I refuse to forgive you and because I refuse to LIG it. Let it go.
Yeah. Hey, Jim. So I guess to go back to what Mario was saying, yeah, it's a two-way street. Absolutely. Is that that's the I guess that's the tricky part with most of us black people. It's like you said you sorry, but what actions are you doing? But do we have to wait on the actions though? Not that we don't need to wait on the action because they apologize for it. So that's the thing where it's like, ooh, like because people can apologize all day and
Yeah,
then have no actions and then mess up again. That's on them. But we have to be there
yeah.
to forgive them regardless because that is the way we're able to keep our peace within ourselves.
Yes, and if you think about it, if you look at from a cultural and historical perspective, like I love to talk about that movie Birth of a Nation when the lady handed him the Bible and was like, "This is your book." Like think about the Hebrew way. Like those are our roots. Those were our roots to be kind, to treat people. Think about the history of Black people. That's our roots to be kind and to be forgiving. Think about the Native Americans, the roots to be kind, and you know what I'm saying? Like think about the history of people, how they live, how the indigenous people treat the land, how they treated one another. Now everybody didn't follow the code, right? Everybody wasn't that way, but the majority was. You know what I'm saying? The majority were. And I think when we think about humanity, kindness, being a giver, what does that produce in you? What does it do for you when you're kind, when you're generous, when you give? It's the exact opposite of being unforgiving and being bitter and being,
It gives you
because like I
peace.
said,
It gives you peace.
it does. And to me, it's we're putting this out there in the world, and it's always going to come back. But there is going to come a time where standing for the truth makes you revolutionary, and people are going to ostracize you, and you're going to feel divided for the simple fact that you are a person of love. But my thing to you is to stand up, read First Peter chapter 4, and look at how like Yahusha suffered for the sins of the world. They spit on that man. He didn't do nothing wrong, but they were afraid of the power of his political influence. The Jewish people were afraid of his political influence that he had, even though he wasn't even political. He said, "Give unto Caesar what's Caesar's." But the idea of being equal, the idea of equality, is central to the Hebrew God. It may not be central in Christianity, but it is central to the Hebrew God, the creator of the heavens and the earth, the creator of humanity. It is central there. And so if we're going to be like him, then we need to act like him, walk like him, talk like him. And we do that through delivering um, and forgiving people, because he freely forgave us and gave us grace, mercy. He's been just to us. You know what I mean? He's been better than good, like when we weren't always deserving of his blessings. Andre, can I get an amen? Like he blessed, even though we didn't always acknowledge him, and it's helped us be so mature now that we can have the difficult conversations with people who disagree with us. We can recognize who our allies are. We can pray for our enemies and love them. And the reason why I think we should pray for our enemies is because if they don't get it right, they're going to be destroyed. He said, I will make your enemies your footstool.
Mm-hmm.
If the enemy, like if I visit a good restaurant, I want to tell everybody about it, right? I want everybody to enjoy what I'm enjoying. So that's what we do when we actually forgive people. We restore human dignity and we give them the power to get it right. Because as long as I'm coming at your neck, and as long as you're coming at my neck, like the ability for us to get it right. And so I was talking to a pretty dominant Christian rapper. Like he's kind of well known, and he said like maybe we shouldn't have some of these talks until like things die down. Like as far as reconciliation, like the actions are still happening. Police are still killing black people. Like new cases are being opened. Maybe after you show some justice, maybe then we can have some
Yeah.
reconciliation.
Because Jim says some of his last words were, "Forgive them, for they don't know what they do." It is our gift to give forgiveness as well, to not be being judgmental, and that's powerful because of the fact of
Mm-hmm.
what I said earlier before you came on, Jim, that the power in for me forgiving the friend that I'm, well, my non-friend now, the person I'm no longer friends with, I forgave him, but I will still love him from afar. So there's no, I will not, I will, there's, I don't want to be judgmental towards him. I ain't gonna throw the bows up like Brandon just threw his fist up just earlier. Like I'm not finna be just going for your throat no more. But I will love you from afar though. It's just, but I
Mm-hmm.
forgave you. It's like I've let it go because it's not gonna be a burden on my life anymore because I forgave you.
Yes. Yes, and I do think that we do have to be the bigger person. That is what is required of the Most High. And I'm obviously, speaking spiritually, like, but clearly based on what we see, right? Because I can connect the spiritual to the reality based on what we see. Obviously, we are held to a higher standard. There are people trying to say, "Oh, you shouldn't wear this. You shouldn't be like that. You shouldn't." And even when we do those things, it's still a problem. Is it not? So there's this standard that obviously they're trying to put on us, but we should accept the standard and the heritage and the culture and the identity that God gave us. He gave us this culture, this identity. And when we connect to that, I think that's when we flourish. That's why I'm not living under the curses of Deuteronomy. Are you?
No.
I don't think so.
Mm.
You're successful, graduate with your master's degree. And I think part of where you have elevated life, part of where I have elevated in life is because we walk in forgiveness,
Yes.
right? We deal with it, but we're not constantly living in a state of rage to where it's a negative emotion that causes us to be living in fight or flight. every day of our life. Because I think society, when we look at what's happening in society, there is a God and there is a devil, and there's this
Hey,
goal,
Lewis.
I feel
I
like,
see
to keep
Lewis
us.
is on. My friend Lewis.
I feel like there's this attempt to keep us in a constant state of rage, the rage that they want us in, because they're like they want us to be violent. They want us to be Americans to be separated. They want us to believe the lies of the narrative that they spread. You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? Like, and to not acknowledge the truth within the system that there are actually, like, when it comes to Black Lives Matter, there are every race is out there protesting. You know what I'm saying? Like, every race is out there
But I
protesting.
mean, there's other
And
countries that are protesting too. It is not just the United States. And then on top of that, that's the reason why I'm sorry. I still have to go back to the individual that I told y'all about a couple episodes ago that said protests are legal, but they're stupid. Like I'm
right,
just, and for me to
right.
try to wrap my mind around that post, it just boggles my mind that you are refusing. Because when you say that to me, because you said it to me because it was on your Facebook, then you're telling me that you're not even willing to open up your eyes to learn and to educate yourself on the reason why those protests are
Right.
happening.
And let me add something to this too. Just because I forgive somebody doesn't mean I'm not angry with them.
Okay, baby, let me tell you
I
something.
forgive you. I forgive you, but I can be upset. I'm allowed to be upset. The Bible says, "Be angry and sin not." Like, I'm not gonna curse you. I'm not gonna throw no stones at you, but I can be upset with you. I can have a problem with your ignorance. And I guess that's what I just wanted to highlight. That forgiveness is for you and you alone, and it gives God the opportunity to go get justice. Because if you don't forgive somebody for wronging you, eventually that is going to bring something out of you that you probably don't want. When we don't forgive, like, we might be trying to murder our brother when we don't forgive. You see what I'm saying? Like, it will produce things that are contrary to what we even are angry and upset about in the first place. So why not deliver yourself and aid in the deliverance of somebody else by forgiving them?
Yeah, I mean,
Because think about.
yeah, I was just gonna say that I feel that when it comes to forgiveness, even more so now, um, it's 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 deep. It's really deep because I think about all of the things that I have forgiven, and it makes me realize how much peace I have because I forgave them. I'm talking about being called faggot, being called pussy boy, all the different names I got called. Yep, in the military by service members, um, the
Mm,
ridicule I got, and I forgave. I literally. You know what the power of forgiveness does too? Do you know what it also does? It causes you actually to almost forget about what they did.
mm,
It actually does. It actually makes you forget. Not saying that now there's certain things that, honey, you ain't gonna forget. But the power of forgiveness almost makes you forget. The only time you may be reminded of that particular thing is if they say something to you or they do something else or whatever. But it's like, wow, like I forgot they didn't did. Oh, they sure did do that. Oh, I
mhm.
forgave them. So there's so much peace that comes over you when you forgive somebody because in most cases, or I'll say some cases. In some cases, you don't even remember that what they did to you. You're like, what they did? Oh, they sure did cuss me out, or they sure did hang up in my face, or they sure did call me a faggot. Oh, okay. Oh,
Mhm.
well, I
Mhm.
almost forgot their names. That's how irrelevant. I hate to say this. That's how irrelevant they are because I have forgotten
Yeah.
what they did because I gave myself the peace I needed to move on.
Right.
So,
Yes. And thank you, because that really highlights it. And I think what it does is it maybe will make them question before they do that to the next person. Like, you really open the door for them to change and for you to go to the next level, for you to protect your peace. Anything that's worth something is worth protecting. And I know for me, like, mental health is real. You know what I'm saying? Mental health is a real thing. People are really struggling. We talk a lot about trauma, and delivering yourself even from the trauma is forgiveness. But see, like the world would have, and see, this is the difference between people who serve the Most High God and people who are in the world. The world would tell you you have to get justice first before you forgive them. But meanwhile, while you're waiting on justice, here comes substance abuse. Here comes hooking up, and just self-destructive behaviors and addictions because you waiting to get justice from something that maybe the world will never give you justice because we live in a wicked world. But then you come to the spiritual side, and the spiritual side will tell you, forgive now. Forgive now for yourself so that you can be made whole. Because as long as you hold on this in your heart, that person that raped you, that rapist, that whatever, the person who murdered your mother, your father, like that person is going on about their life. There are police who have murdered people who still out on the job, still going home kissing their wife and kids and husbands and whatever. They still going on about their life while you over here drug addicted, busted, disgusted because the world told you to wait until you get justice to forgive. But that recipe is destroying you when you have all this life outside. And it's very unfortunate, and I don't mean to sound insensitive, but really I'm trying to uplift and edify people to understand that forgiveness is about you and freeing yourself and being able to exist because I want to tell people, and I don't mean this in a negative way. Hopefully people will understand what I'm saying. Not to fearmonger, but these things are only going to increase. And why we keep finding about more and more cases as we move forward that happened last year and 2 years ago, cases that have been closed. So that family has been living with that trauma for 2-3 years of not getting justice. And I have family members who are on the street from things that happen or interpretations that they have of the family. Like I got an uncle, 60 years old, on the street, homeless, because he mad about childhood. But it's his interpretation of the things that happened. You know what I'm saying? Like how siblings or parents might have the favorite and just all these things, but the root of it is the root of bitterness that he's walking around with unforgiveness. So now his kids don't talk to him. You know what I'm saying? Like he lost his marriage. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? Like these bitterness are destroying us. If we don't forgive people, we are destroying ourselves. Remember that song, Karis? Self-destruction. You're headed for self-destruction. Like we are headed for self-destruction when we don't forgive. So really, to summarize all that I'm saying is don't let the world tell you which narrative to believe because the world will leave you empty-handed. The world will be trying to tell you how to navigate things. But when you surrender to the Most High God, you can understand that vengeance and justice come from Him. And don't believe the overall narrative about Christianity. Because if you look at the word Christianity was added in there. The word Jew was added in there. There was no letter J in the word in Hebrew, in the Hebrew language. So as we study, we can figure out all these things and really connect to the truthfulness of the Most High.
Yeah. And Jim says so much anger, internal anger. So yeah, and that's the thing, being angry is one thing, but you gotta not have your heart be heavy with that situation, and you have to let it go, and that's by forgiving. So
Yeah.
yeah, so with that, um, that wraps up our show. We covered doctors using Zoom and how it's going to be beneficial to the telehealth community and to folks that can utilize doctors through telehealth, which of course would make things a little bit more affordable, I feel, in the future, in the next 5 or 10 years. And then, of course, we talked about forgiveness and deliverance and ensuring that we do not have any of those situations and circumstances that we deal with in our lives to impact us so hard to where it's that we're not forgiving the people. So I feel that is very evident and very, very true, that forgiving someone will give you the peace that you need and that you deserve. You deserve
Yeah.
to have the peace. You don't need, there's no reason to hold on to those circumstances because like Brandon said earlier, those folks that offended you, those folks that did you wrong are still living their lives happy go lucky, like nothing's going on, while you're over there just holding on to that pain. Don't hold on to it. Get to the point where you almost forget about
Don't.
it. Get to the point where you almost forget about it. That's that like like
Mm-hmm.
I've done. I've forgiven folks and I've forgotten I've literally forgotten what they did. So
Hmm.
if we all can get to that space, I think that we can benefit from that. So is there any other final words, Brandon, before we go? Because we've been on for an hour and a half.
Right. I think it's just imperative. I pray that, everyone got something from the conversation and that it was enjoyable and it caused you to think and meditate even after we go off. Please remember to like, share, and comment, even if you're watching this later. And I just think, understanding that forgiveness is for you is very important. And as things, I believe the scriptures and the scriptures tell us what's going to happen in the last days. And that was the motivation for me even wanting to talk about forgiveness, because these things are only going to get worse. These things are only going to get worse. And I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but I think the truth is always uplifting, it's always edifying, and it's always preparatory. And I want you to know that like all of this stuff is temporary and that you will have justice, and God is a God of justice, and you will receive justice. If not in this world, in the next one. You know what I'm saying? Like in eternity. Maybe your justice is the fact that you're going to inherit eternal life. And forgiving is a requirement to be able to do that. So, I just hope you have an excellent week. And please join us next week, same time. And that's all I have.
Okay, well, y'all have a great one. And like I've always said before, we may pop up in the middle of the week. So, and those will just be random pop-ups, no topics in particular. And we'll just, catch y'all next time. All right, y'all have a good one.
All right. See
All
you,
right,
Andre.
see you, Brandon.